What's going on, people? It's your boy Poncho, back at you again with another video. This is the sad story of Jodie Chesney, a 17-year-old girl who was stabbed to death after she was ambushed by a drug dealer who mistook her for a rival. Today the trials ended, but let's take a look at what happened. At 9:20 p.m. on March the 1st, Jodie and her friends were spending the night at Amy's Park in Harrod Hill, Romford, where they were sitting on a bench, listening to music and smoking cannabis. It seemed to be a pretty normal Friday night for the group of friends, having a laugh, having a joke. At this point, it had been dark for some time, and then Jodie's boyfriend, Eddie Coyle, said he had noticed two figures coming out of the darkness coming towards them. They were all sitting on a bench, and Jodie was sitting on the bench table with her back to them. Within a few minutes of them approaching, Jodie was stabbed in the back in an unprovoked and almost silent attack by who we now know as 19-year-old Svenson Ong-a-Kwie. Apologies if I got the name wrong. She then collapsed to the ground. The knife came within millimeters of fully passing through her body. So literally, as he stabbed her, the knife is literally millimeters from going through her whole body. So we're talking about a big knife here. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a Rambo. During the trial, Mr. Coyle had told an Old Bailey jury that Jodie had screamed out of shock. At first, she didn't know what happened, and the group thought they just had their bag stolen. But then she started to scream continuously, very loud, and it lasted about 2 minutes, he goes on to say. Then she began to faint, and at this time she was falling off the bench. And it's only when he shone his torch on his iPhone onto Jodie's back, then he realised how badly she had been hurt, and the severity of the situation. We now know that the wound was 18 centimeters deep, and penetrated her right lung, which caused heavy bleeding. The ambulance arrived at 9:30 and Jodie showed no sign of life at this point. On trial, Ong-a-Kwie gave evidence. He told the jurors how he drove to Harrod Hill on the evening of March 1st to drop off drugs. Then the jurors heard how Ong-a-Kwie was looking to take out a rival drug dealer who was encroaching on his turf. In court, CCTV footage was shown of Ong-a-Kwie and his 17-year-old accomplice who can't be named for legal reasons. And an expert had concluded that Ong-a-Kwie was holding an object at waist height which reflected light, and then the prosecution went on to claim that this was a knife. Ong-a-Kwie had then claimed it was a mobile phone, but cell site evidence had proved that Ong-a-Kwie's phone was turned off minutes before Jodie was stabbed. The prosecution then went on to claim that he mistook Jodie and her friends as his rivals and stabbed Jodie in an unprovoked ambush. Ong-a-Kwie insisted that it was his 17-year-old co-defendant who had stabbed Jodie on the night rather than taking responsibility for himself. But witness statements from Jodie's friends proved the killer was a dark-skinned, tall black man in a tracksuit who stood up on the bench before swinging the knife at Jodie. After the murder, he had burnt his clothes, dumped his trainers and threw his iPhone into a bin. And this behaviour and the evidence convinced the jury, who subsequently found Ong-a-Kwie guilty of Jodie's murder. They also found the 17-year-old who went to the park with Ong-a-Kwie guilty of murder. Manuel Petrovic, who was in partnership with selling drugs with Ong-a-Kwie, was there on the day of the murder and was initially charged with the murder of Jodie. He originally gave police a no-comment statement, but as the investigation progressed, he told a detail of what happened on the night, but refused to give names in fear of his life and his family's life. He admitted owning the Corsa that dropped Ong-a-Kwie off to the park and having a mobile he used for selling cannabis. He said, "I would like to say that I have no involvement in the murder of Jodie Chesney. I'm deeply saddened by her death and feel for her friends and family. A young life has been taken away in what seems to be an unprovoked attack of an innocent girl who had a whole life ahead of her." Petrovic then went on to say that he'd been with a friend on March the 1st who had received a call from a person, only named as Manet, but who we now know as Svenson Ong-a-Kwie. Petrovic said he had been with a friend on March the 1st, and that he had received a call from a person only named Manet asking for a lift. He said they picked up Manet, who was with Man B, who's one of the underage defendants who's been charged with the murder, and they drove to Harrod Hill so that Manet could collect some weed and some money. The two unnamed men got out at Harrod Hill, leaving Petrovic and his friend in the car, according to the statement. Petrovic stated, "At this point, I would like to add that I was carrying a quantity of cannabis on me. This was to sell as and when I received calls or text messages." He then said that he drove to the end of the road and turned the car around. While waiting, the lights and engine were off, but there was no sinister reason for this. He then goes on to say, "I believe my friend received a call for us to come to the end of the road." Then, Manet and Man B had been gone for about 5 minutes and they seemed calm when they returned. He said, "There was nothing unusual about their behaviour, nothing about them made me suspicious. I did not see either of them carrying anything. My friend and I were told that Manny was collecting some money and drugs. After dropping the two men off, Mr. Petrovic was involved in a separate incident. He claimed that a male approached him and put a knife to his throat. He then went on to claim that he fled the scene before returning, as the friend that he was with was still in or near the car. The jury then heard that his keys to his Vauxhall Corsa had been taken, as well as the phone and the money that his friend had been carrying. On Monday, March the 4th, Mr. Petrovic had reported the knife point robbery to 101, and that same afternoon, he was assaulted outside a betting shop in Collier Row. He reported the incident, as well as the knife point robbery in Gidea Park, to the police. He told the officer that his sister had advised him to go stay with her in Leicester as he feared for his safety, and the police told him to do so. But the following day, after the police had linked Mr. Petrovic's abandoned car in Gidea Park to the stabbing of Jodie Chesney, Mr. Petrovic was arrested in Leicester on suspicion of murder. It was around the same time that his friend, who's underage and cannot be named, was arrested and charged with the murder. After the trial, he was cleared of murder and manslaughter, one of the key evidence points in being that he had messaged someone to go and make a sale of cannabis to them in 15 minutes of time when he had dropped the pair off at the park. The defence had said if he had knowledge of the murder taking place, he wouldn't have arranged a drop-off. Also, whereas Ong-a-Kwie had switched his phone off to hide his location, Petrovic had kept his on, insinuating that he had no knowledge of the murder taking place and that he was completely innocent. The teenager with him in the car at the time has also been cleared of murder and manslaughter. Sentencing didn't take place today as the trial finished, but I will keep you guys updated. Very, very sad story coming out of East London. An innocent girl who didn't have any gang ties, wasn't involved in the sale of drugs or the distribution of drugs, was just having a good time with her friends, unfortunately has passed away due to an unprovoked attack. Rest in peace to Jodie. My thoughts and prayers go out to anyone that's involved in the situation. And yeah, like I said guys, I'll keep you guys updated on this story, so let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section below. Give the video a like if you like the video. Hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on. It's been your boy 8 Poncho, and I'm out.